So let's talk about rejection. Rejection is not always a very comfortable experience. It can happen in many ways. We can be rejected for a job. Partners can reject us, friends, family, many ways that we can feel like we're being rejected. I did have one experience when I was living in Alaska, and I was walking into the grocery store, and it was a warm summer day. It was Ketchikan, Southeast Alaska, and I was wearing a pair of knee-length shorts and a t-shirt. I wasn't sloppy. They weren't dirty, ripped, anything. Just a nice pair of shorts and a shirt. And I was walking through the parking lot and got just to the edge of the street where I would have to cross to go into the store. And a gentleman was coming out, and he looked at me and looked me up from feet to head to feet again, rolled his eyes and muttered a horrific expletive. It was as if he was saying, "How dare you show yourself in public like that?" And that hurt. And so I went back to the car and I cried. And I went home. And that was probably 20 years ago. And I still have moments where I remember that, especially when it comes to current experiences with feeling rejected. And a more recent one, a few years ago, when I was on a dating site, and I was talking with a gentleman, and there was nothing ever intimate or anything like that. And I said, "Well, why don't we meet for coffee? We'll just say hi in person, right?" And I had sent pictures of him. He knew what I looked like, and I went to Starbucks, and I pulled into the parking lot, and I texted him, and I said, "I am here," and he said, "So am I." And that was it. I thought, oh, maybe he's inside already. So I got out of my car, and I was in a dress, and I think it was a dress or a skirt or something, and a nice shirt, blouse. And I walked toward the door, and then I heard a text come in. So before going inside, I looked at my text message, and it was him. And he said in his text, "Yeah, I can't do it. You're too fat." And he pulled out and drove away. Now, again, he knew what I looked like. We had phone conversations. So I just stood there stunned, shocked and stunned, and definitely hurt. That was a tough one to take. So I walked into Starbucks, and I was shaking, and the barista asked if I needed anything, and I said, just give me just a second, and I told him what had happened, and he said, "Oh, honey." And I said, "Just give me this blended thing with extra shots of coffee." And he said, "Do you want a large or a small?" I said, "Just a small." He says, "You're getting a large." He says, "Do you want whipped cream?" I said, "Yeah, I need a little bit of sweetness." He says, "You're getting double whipped cream, and I'm paying for it." So of course, the tears are rolling down my cheeks. And I was, thank you, and so I got my drink, and I gave him a hug, and went back out to the car, and I sat there crying, drinking my coffee, crying. And then I called a friend, and I asked her, "What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me?" She said, "Honey, there's nothing wrong with you." Some men, of course, and people have preferences. Some people, men and women alike, when they see someone in person, it's not really the image that they had, right? Even though he saw pictures again. But she said there are some people who are not comfortable with your power or with your strength. And so we had a conversation about that, and I felt better afterward. And then I texted him and I said, I'm sorry you felt that you couldn't tell me to my face that you just weren't interested. I said, we've had enough conversations by now that you would have known that I wouldn't have made a scene. I wouldn't have freaked out. I simply would have said, thank you for being honest. That's all. And he waited. Then at the end of that text, I said, I do wish you the best of luck. I do hope you're finding what you're looking for. An hour later, he texted back and he said, okay, you too. And that was it. And so at that moment, I was thanking the universe for pushing someone out of the way who, number one, was a little more shallow than I was. And number two, certainly did not know how to communicate in a healthy manner. And I've had other moments of rejection. We all have. But the one thing we get to remember, whether it's a job or a relationship or whatever it might be, it's never really personal unless. And so unless is the important word, right? Unless we are rejecting ourselves, then it's personal. So how many times do we practice self-rejection? And that one of the signs of self-rejection is and now I just lost the word. Basically tripping ourselves up, right? And it's going to come to me before I finish. I'm pretty sure it's going to come to me. When we reject ourselves, we are forgetting that we are perfect the way we are. We are always okay. We are worthy. We are worthy of our own self-love. Right? And so we can turn that around by letting the universe work through us, move through us, breathe us, surrender for a minute. Just allow yourself to be breathed, allow yourself to be lived, allow yourself to surf for a minute. Relax into the knowing of who you are and who you are not, right? And practice the universal law of, I bet you thought I was going to say law of attraction, didn't you? The law of reflection. The law of reflection is understanding that every single person that we meet is a reflection of who we are or who we think we are or what we feel about ourselves. So if we are rejecting ourselves, and whichever way that is, if we're rejecting ourselves, we are going to be reflecting that, and we're going to draw in experiences and relationships and people and circumstances that are going to mirror that. So if we can turn that around, use that law of self-reflection to see where inside we are sabotaging ourselves. That's the word I was looking for. If we can understand where we are sabotaging ourselves, everywhere in our life, what our triggers are, what needs to be healed, then we are less likely to be tripped up by rejection from others. But we have to remember that, first of all, we have to remember not to reject ourselves. Right? So it's just a practice of introspection, going inside, looking inside, remembering who we are, knowing that for the most part, rejection is not personal unless you make it personal against yourself. So remember to breathe, remember your worth. And I think that's my signal now. We're about done. The great thing about doing these videos is I do not ever re-record, and life happens. And a little snippet of music right there. Remember who you are. Remember that the law of reflection, you can use that to your advantage and as part of your healing as well. All right. Know that you are love. You are loved. You are worthy. I honor you and I honor your journey.